253 is right around the corner, and we got a great night of fights. A lot of even fights that are going to be hard to call. Last week, I did a really good job with my predictions. On the main card, I got 5 out of 6 winners correct, only missing that Nico Price-Donald Cerrone draw. I even accurately called the way it would be finished and win. It's a great night for me, but I give that to you because I'm not very confident in this week's picks. With that admission out of the way, let's get right into it. Here's my predictions for UFC 253. We open up the main card with a featherweight bout between Hakeem Dawodu and Zubaira Tukugov. This is the first fight of the main card, and it kind of sets the trend for the remaining 4 because this is a great matchup. It's a pick'em fight, no real favorite, and their style should make for a pretty entertaining one. Like most of the fights on this card, I think this one really comes down to whoever's more on their game that night. I think that Tukugov is the better fighter all around, but as they say, styles make fights. And it's so often not about who the best all-around fighter is. Tukugov can do pretty much anything. He's good on his feet, he's good on the ground, he can hit you with some weird attacks from weird places. But Dawodu has a lot of forward pressure, the kind of pressure that can nullify many of Tukugov's attacks. He also likes those calf kicks, which can really take the pop off of your opponent's strikes. And Dawodu is strong too. He'll probably try to keep it standing, and I think he has the strength to stuff Tukugov's takedowns. We'll just have to see if it turns out to be a good idea. Tukugov has had a lot of time off lately. He's fought like 5 times over the past 6 years or so. This was the guy who punched Conor McGregor when Khabib went rabid and jumped out of the octagon. He got a year suspension for that, but I don't know why he's chose to be so inactive other than that 1 year. Dawodu has been reasonably active though ever since joining the UFC, regularly fighting about every 6 months or so. Now both of these guys have a tendency to let fights be a little too close for a little too long, and I don't like that. But Dawodu has not lost a decision yet. Maybe due to the forward pressure, but he does enough for the judges. I can see plenty of ways that Tukugov wins this one, but it's probably going to end in decision. I'm going to go Hakeem Dawodu by unanimous decision. Next up on the main card is the women's bantamweight bout between number 7 Ketlen Vieira and number 13 Sijara Eubanks. I've been pretty hard on old Sarge here lately, but she did look good in that last fight against Julia Avila. I'm kind of surprised that she's getting another fight so quickly because that one against Avila was a very hard-fought fight. The way Sijara and Julia squared off at the beginning of each round was just awesome. If she shows up and looks like she did a few weeks ago, then Sijara is going to be really tough to beat. Ketlen Vieira is only 29 years old, but she hasn't been fighting much lately either. Her last fight was against Irene Aldana. That was last December, but the fight before that was well over 2 years ago, while Sijara Eubanks has had 2 fights in the past 4 months. Sijara's record is only 6-4, but those losses have come against Aspen Ladd twice and Caitlin Chikugian, and that's nothing to be ashamed of. There's also that Betch Carrera loss thrown in there, so that's not too good. But none of those girls have been able to finish her. I think Ketlen Vieira can realistically be a pretty big player in this division, but she's just got to be more active. There are lessons to learn that only Octagon time can teach you. Sijara has been looking better. She's kind of starting to find her flow, and I look for her to continue that trend on Saturday night. She's been looking for that elusive UFC finish. She's been doing everything right, and she's going to find it sooner rather than later. I'm going to call Sijara Eubanks by a late 3rd round TKO. Next up is a flyweight bout between ranked contenders. Number 7 Kai Kara-France takes on number 9 Brandon Royval. This, again, should be a great matchup, and let's hope that it makes for a great fight. The flyweight division is looking for new contenders. We've really only got a few down there, and people expect Kai Kara-France to be one. And this is a really good spot for him to turn that expectation into a reality. An impressive win here can catapult Kai Kara-France maybe into the top 5, but definitely into the contender argument. The thing is though, even though Kara-France is really good, he rarely does it impressively. He does have 9 TKO wins, but in 5 UFC fights, all we've gotten are decisions. Royval, on the other hand, has 1 UFC fight and 1 UFC finish. An impressive win for Royval will also do big things for him. A lot of fans don't know a whole lot about him, but he can really announce his arrival this weekend. But Kai Kara-France is a really tough guy to look good against. He's going to be competitive, he's going to be tough to put away, and he's really just solid everywhere. Great grappling, solid and consistent striking, and he puts combinations together well, mixing in body shots with head shots. KaraFrance is looking better with each fight, he's upping his output, and he really could be turning into the contender people are expecting. I would really like to see Royval get another submission win here, just to get another contender injected into this division, but I'm going to go with a safer bet, and I'm calling Kai Kara-France by unanimous decision. Next up, the co-main event for the vacant light heavyweight belt. The number 1 contender Dominick Reyes taking on the number 3 contender Blachowicz. Dominick is, of course, coming off that impressive outing against Jon Jones, and I think he's a little lucky that Jones vacated. Reyes was getting the next shot one way or another, whether it was against Jones or for the vacant belt. But Jones is so good at rematches that I really don't think Reyes was going to win that one. In fact, my money says Jon would finish him the second time around. But Jon's gone, and Reyes gets Blachowicz. Reyes has had a very impressive career so far, and he's still very young. He's had 15 fights, where Blachowicz has had 15 UFC fights. But Reyes is not too young. He's been in there with some really good guys, and he's beaten most of them. I don't really care much about him beating Chris Weidman. Weidman was undersized, over the heel, so I really don't think that's a good one to reference. But Ozdemir, OSP, Cannonier, those are some good wins. And then, of course, there's the Jon Jones fight. Blachowicz has some good wins recently, too. Again, I don't think KOing Corey Anderson is too much to brag about, but he did do it pretty easily. Luke Rockhold, kind of the same thing. But I like that he has that arm triangle choke over Nikita Krylov on his resume. With 9 submission wins, Blachowicz has shown that he has more depth to his game than Reyes does. Not to take that away from Reyes, he's just a different kind of fighter. Now, I think this is Reyes' fight to lose. The styles, I think, kind of give him the advantage. Dominick uses good footwork. He's a good striker going forward or backward, aggressively or defensively. Jan is much more of a power puncher and does a better job going backwards, fighting defensively. If Jan is pressing the action, if Dominick can convince him to move forward, I do think Dominick will be able to get him. But I'm worried that Dominick's head is not in the right place. He's been considering himself the champion ever since the Jones fight, but he didn't win. And I'll tell you why he didn't win. Everybody wants to jump on there and say Dominick Reyes did enough to win, but those rounds were super, super close. And when they're that close, you gotta win the last 30 seconds or so, which is exactly what Jon Jones did. He turned it up in the last 30 seconds. He played the game, and he got the judges to give him the whole 5 minutes based on those last 30 seconds. It may be an unpopular opinion, but I don't think Reyes did enough in that fight. But he's been whining about it and arguing his case ever since. It seems to me that he's not focused enough on Blachowicz, and if not, he's going to pay for it. I think this is his immaturity or lack of similar reference that's getting in the way. I think it's going to be a good fight. I expect a long, close fight. Like I said, this is Dominick's fight to lose, but I think he's going to. Most people are calling for Reyes, but I think that Jan's focus and experience is going to prevail. I'm going Jan Blachowicz by 4th round submission. The main event, of course, is the middleweight title fight between champion Israel Adesanya and the ranked number 2 contender Paulo Costa. There's been a lot of build-up for this fight, and Adesanya's been asking for this fight for a long time. And that goes a long way with me. He obviously knows a little more about fighting than I do. He must see something in Costa that gives him confidence. Adesanya's been around for a good while. It's not like he's a Sean O'Malley who's too high on himself. Costa, though, definitely passes the eye test and offers his share of problems for Izzy. It's been billed as Bull versus Matador, and with neither fighter ever attempting a takedown ever, it should live up to the hype. Izzy is a world-class striker, preferring to keep distance and counter-strike. Costa's just going to charge ahead, and with this being in the smaller cage, Izzy's reach may be nullified. Although not on par with Adesanya's, Costa's striking is good, and it's not been built up adequately. He's a solid boxer that mixes in good kicks, but I don't think he's ever fought someone as intelligent and slick as Izzy is. Both are undefeated in MMA, but Adesanya has been knocked out once in his kickboxing career. You've probably seen the video. If not, it's pretty easy to find. Now, Adesanya has referred to that knockout and said he made a mistake once and he's learned from it. It won't happen again. And I kind of believe him. In fact, I think that experience of knowing what not to do will help him in this fight. Now, we could go over stats and records and fighting styles all day long, but the bottom line is that these two complement each other in just about every way. Again, I think it's going to come down to that X factor. Which one is more on their game? Which one has more of that something special? And I think that's Israel Adesanya. He's doing what he was born to do. We've never really seen someone do what he does. Think about the Whitaker fight. He killed it in the walkout. He killed it in the octagon. After the win, he called out Costa and sold the next fight. And he's good in the interviews too. He just checks all the boxes, not just as a fighter, but as an entertainer. To me, Izzy is the whole package, not just in the octagon, but around it too. We deserve a champion like him, a guy who just gets us interested and then backs it up. Whether you like him or not, he's definitely one of the more entertaining and interesting fighters that we've got. I just think that Adesanya is so plugged into his career, so full throttle, that there's no way he's not going to give us 100%. And a 100% Adesanya is really hard to beat. It's a bit of a toss-up, but I'm going to go with Izzy. And since I don't know how you're supposed to finish Paulo Costa, I'm going to go Israel Adesanya by unanimous decision. So there's my predictions for UFC 253. Like I said in the intro to this video, I expect to have most of these fights wrong. I'm just not very confident in the picks, but I'm still looking forward to watching these fights. It should be a great event. After the fight, I'll make another winners and losers video like always, but it's probably going to be the last one. If you've never seen them, and it's a good chance you haven't, it's just kind of a recap of the event and my takeaway from different fighters' performances. If you like my winners and losers series, and would like to see more of them, then give it a thumbs up this weekend. If I get enough, I'll keep doing it. But anyway, thanks for the videos you do watch. Let's watch these fights this Saturday night and get ready for next weekend's fights. Till next time.